Oops. And then I'll be really brave. Da, da, da. Okay. Magic wand. Let's see if this works. Started there, we're in 4 places. How's about that? Right, hello there. I'm Dr. Ali, the professional and entrepreneurial women's menopause mentor, and I'm going to talk to you this evening about how our partners are impacted by menopause. So as we go through the perimenopause and the menopause, there are many symptoms that we may be experiencing and that are troubling us greatly. And 80% of women suffer debilitating symptoms, or at least symptoms that impact them at work and at home. So when we think about the impact that this has on our partners, very often I think we only think in terms of our mood swings and how being irritable, flying off the handle, getting angry easily is going to impact them directly. And indeed, perimenopause is a common reason for, I'm worried about that fly going to go over the camera again. So perimenopause is a common reason for divorce, in that a lot of divorces happen in those years between 45 and 55. Whether that's because of the mood swings, I've always tended to assume that it was, or whether it's actually because we women going through this phase realize that we don't have to put up with the status quo or stick with the status quo or continue to give up ourselves really for those around us, our partners, our parents, our kids, but that we can step out and create a bigger, more meaningful life for ourselves. So there are lots of reasons why that might be, but there is a study. So again, I'm going to have a look at the Post Reproductive Health, which is the British Menopause Society's journal. And I spotted that there's another review looking at 3 online surveys. So this is a paper called Menopause, Understanding the Impact on Women and Their Partners. So it's looking at the impact on women as well as on their partners. And it was interesting. They used 3 online surveys. And they were really looking at women aged over 45 with menopause symptoms, either currently or within the previous 10 years. And the 2 questionnaires focused on the symptoms and treatments and were conducted before and after publication of the NICE guidance in, I think it was about 2000, and it was just about 3 years ago, 2018, maybe 2017, but it was a year-ish before lockdown, so probably 2018, 17. And then it was actually 2017. And then the 3rd survey focused on the psychosocial impact of the menopause and was also conducted among the partners. So 650 women and 350 partners took part in that particular survey. And it's interesting to read because the impact on our partners isn't what we expect it to be. In their summary here, there was a reluctance to talk openly about the menopause or consult a healthcare professional when women were suffering symptoms. And women experience on average 7 symptoms of perimenopause. So it's not just one thing. People who are outside this age group or who are men tend to think it's just about hot flushes, but we who are going through it or have been through it know that it's a lot more than that. So partners expressed a desire to provide support, but were unsure how to do so. Often women felt isolated And 41% considered the information and support available to them was insufficient. Only 3% of women were aware of the NICE guidelines, but the majority were interested in learning more. So this demonstrates the importance of some of the online resources that are available. And I do think the Channel 4 program that Davina McCall put on was very helpful in opening up the questions, opening up the ability to talk about it, particularly those symptoms that we women really can't talk about or don't feel able to talk about easily, or a lot of us don't anyway, depending on our upbringing and culture and things like that. But the incontinence, the lack of libido, the zero libido in many cases, the dry vagina, the painful intercourse, excruciating in some cases, causing splitting in some cases. And this can take a big chunk away from our relationship with our partners. But as I say, the majority response of the partners, maybe it's because it was a survey about menopause, that was that they expressed a desire to provide support but were unsure how to do so. And so this is why I think it's so crucial that we, as women going through this, actually talk to our partners openly and say that this is what we're finding difficult, this is why we're finding it difficult, but also giving them an opening to talk about how it's impacting them, and also letting them know how they can support you. So really important to keep that communication open. So impact on family and relationships. Around half of women surveyed have said that it had impacted their home life. And they often have arguments because of the partner's lack of understanding of the menopause. This is why I wrote a blog post some years back called Menopause for Men, because it's so important that that we all understand. Our kids need to understand, and this is why it needs to be part of part of school education, that it's not just about periods, but also about when periods stop and what the impact that can have. And I don't know if puberty education nowadays is a little bit more open about the anxiety and mood swings of the hormone changes in puberty, but I hope so, because when at the last year or two that I was the school doctor for Bede's School in Sussex was when the mental health, and this was way before COVID, but the mental health issues were spiraling upwards because of the pressure to do well in exams and perform. And this is an ongoing stress, isn't it, really? So around half of women reported that menopause had affected their sex life. I think that's absolutely true. And it's a question I ask directly because it's not something that people will volunteer usually when I'm doing my consultations. And it's also an important part of my online courses and my year-long program. And there was general agreement among women and partners about how their sex life had been impacted. That's the fly. When they go over the camera, it really scuppers things. Oh dear. Such is the joy of summer in the UK, eh? So since experiencing the menopause, more than a third of women reported almost always being less interested in sex, and 52% reported not finding sex as satisfying. And women also reported not feeling as sexy since experiencing the menopause. And almost a fifth of women were anxious about their partner losing interest in them. In contrast, only 8% of partners reported finding their partner less attractive since the start of the menopause. That's insane, isn't it? Just goes to show you so much of what's wrong is what's between our ears, what's in our head. Isn't that insane that only 8% of partners said they found their partners less attractive, and yet 56% of women felt less attractive? Because attraction isn't about our looks. It's about who we are. It's about that spiritual connection, that energy connection. It's about that win-win, that give and take. So interesting. We do need to take this a bit more closely, and it affects social lives and professional lives of women, working women. And it also talked about action taken to reduce symptoms. So well-being and emotional support is the most important thing. So most partners, 73%, expressed a desire to help their partner through the menopause, but 38% said they felt helpless when it came to supporting them. That's partly because of that knowledge, partly because of the women themselves not knowing how they want to be supported. Because let's face it, when we're having those mood swings, how we want to be supported is different one day to the next day, and may in fact be different 1 hour to the next hour. But we do need to open up the discussions, you know. And almost a quarter of women felt very well supported, but 41% considered the information and support currently available as insufficient. There we go. And, you know, when I was talking about the sexual dysfunction of perimenopause, I didn't mention the urinary dysfunction of perimenopause, which affects more of us more of the time, and is perhaps, well, it depends really on your priorities, but it may be more significant. And that is problems with incontinence, problems with frequency going more and more, problems with getting up at night more and more often, problems with not emptying easily, and problems with urgency. So having to rush to the loo. In fact, there is a syndrome called key in the door syndrome, which is really just a description of what happens once we get out of the car, once we've been shopping or whatever. No feeling of needing to go to the toilet while we're out. But the minute we get the key out and put it in the door, all the floodgates open if we're not careful. We really have to get there urgently. Key in the door syndrome, part and parcel of perimenopause. This is Dr. Ali, the professional and entrepreneurial women's menopause mentor. And if you would like to learn how to work with me, just send me a direct message. Join my free Facebook group, which is Menopause and Perimenopause Help with Dr. Ali, and look forward to seeing you. This is Dr.